Multiplying decimals, Chapter 2, Lesson 6, Part 2. This is all really should be just a review, and we're applying the rules for multiplying integers to this. So a positive times a positive equals a positive, a negative times a negative will equal a positive, and a positive times a negative will equal a negative. Okay, so part A here, we have a negative 6.83 times a negative 0.4. So then just write it down vertically here and notice that in 6.83, there's 2 decimal places, and in 0.4, there's 1 decimal place. So now you're going to ignore that, and then they just multiply regularly. 6.83 times 4. They did 0.4 and added all the zeros here, but you all know that 0 times anything equals 0. So when they did 6.83 times 4, they got 2,732. So now we have to put the decimal back in. In our original problem, we had 2 decimal places in our first number and 1 in the second, which is a total of 3. So that means in our answer, we need 3 decimal places. So we start at the back and count over 1, 2, 3, which you can see is 2.732. And our answer is positive because in our original question, it was a negative times a negative. So in B here, again, we also have a negative 4.3 times a negative 1.5. In 4.3, there's 1 decimal place. And in 1.5, there's 1 decimal place, which equals a total of 2 decimal places for our answer. So now we're going to go in and ignore those decimals and do 43 times 15. So 5 times 3 is 15. Right, they wrote 5 and regrouped the 1. And 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is this 21 here. And then they went through and multiplied the 1 through. Remember, I like to put that 0 as a placeholder because this 1 is really kind of a 10. So 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 4 is 4. They added these together to get 645. And then they put the decimals back in and went 1, 2 spaces over, which is how they got 6.45. Again, it's a positive 6.45 because anytime we multiply a negative times a negative, we get a positive. So multiplying percents is the same as multiplying a decimal. 7% as a fraction is 7 over 100. So that tells us what it should look like in decimal form because our last digit should be in the hundredths place. So 7 in the hundredths place is 0.07. My apologies, 0.07. So now we just multiply that times whatever number. So 890 times 0.07. 890 has 0 decimal places and 0.07 has 2. So we know in our answer we need 2 decimal places. So now all we had to do was multiply 7 times 890. 7 times 0 is, of course, 0. 7 times 9 is 63. So we wrote our 3, carried the 6. 7 times 8 is 56, plus that 6 is 62. So again, they multiplied these zeros. That's completely unnecessary because you know 0 times 0, or 0 times anything is, of course, 0. So we have 6,230, and then we needed to bring our decimal back in from the back, 1, 2 places, and 62.30 is your answer. Because they're talking about money, we did keep that last 0 in here, $62.30. This is actually a good skill to figure out how much you owe if you're purchasing something with sales tax. Okay, so number 7, we have 19.3 times a negative 0.6. So here, so in 19.3, we have 1 decimal place. I'm just going to abbreviate that. And in 0.6, we also have 1 decimal place, which of course adds up to 2 decimal places. So now I'm going to completely ignore my decimals and just start multiplying. 6 times 3 is 18. I write my 8, carry my 1. They did that for us. 6 times 9 is 54, plus 1 is 55. So I write my 5, and they already carried that other one. And 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11. I don't need to multiply that 0 through, so my answer is 1,158. And now I'm going to put my decimal back in 1, 2 places. So my answer is, I know it's going to be negative because I have a positive times a negative. It's a negative 11.58. So now I would like you to try number 8 through 11 on your own. Pause the video now and come back and check your work against mine. So in 5.39 times 0.6, I have a total of 3 decimal places. So I don't need to do that 0, so I just start multiplying. 6 times 9 is 54. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 5 is 23. And 6 times 5 is 30, plus 2 is 32. So now I have to put my decimal back in 1, 2, 3 places. And because my original problem was a positive times a negative, my answer is a negative 3.234. In number 9, I have 5.3 times 2.8. They are both negative. I know my answer will be positive. So I have 1 decimal place in each. So I know my answer will have 2 decimal places. Okay, so now I just start multiplying. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 2 is 42. Okay, and now I'm moving over to my 2, so I drop a 0 because it's really 20. 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 5 is 10. I add them together. 4, 8, 4, 1, and I bring my decimal back in. 1, 2. So my answer is 14.48. Again, it's positive because I'm doing a negative times a negative. For 10, I have negative 22.9 times 3.1. So 22.9 has 1 decimal. And 3.1 also has 1 decimal. So my answer will have a total of 2 decimal places. Now I'm just multiplying through. 1 times 9, 1 times 2, 1 times 2. Drop my 0. 3 times 9 is 27. Carry the 2. 3 times 6 is 8 plus 2. I'm sorry, 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. And 3 times 2 is 6. So now I just add and I get 9, 9, 10, carry the 1, 70.99. I need to put my decimal back in, and like I said, 2 decimal places here. So 1, 2. And my original question was a negative times a positive, so my answer is going to be a negative 70.99. And lastly, number 11, 4% of $19. So remember, 4% is 0.04. So I'm doing 19 times 0.04. So I have 0 decimal places here and 2 here. So in my answer, I know I will have 2 decimal places. And I'm going to ignore these zeros in the front because 0 times anything is 0. 4 times 9 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus 3 is 7. So I'm going to put my decimal back in. 1, 2 spaces. And I put a 0 in the ones place for good measure. So 4% of $19 is 76 cents. And that's it for multiplying decimals and percents.